My daughter did not die of what was originally reported as an accidental overdose. My daughter was poisoned.
That's Matthew Capilouto, who's behind the initiative. 4 years ago, his 20-year-old daughter, Alexandra, was home in Temecula on Christmas break. He says she had stopped taking her prescribed medication for depression.
Most people would never know she had these issues because she was very smart. She was a straight A student, had a very high IQ, very quick-witted, and a good sense of humor.
He didn't know she was seeking other ways to self-medicate.
I got a call from my youngest daughter saying, "Dad, get home, Alex is dead."
Capilouto says she bought the painkiller Percocet from a dealer on Snapchat, but the pills were actually fentanyl.
She took half of one before going to bed and never woke up.
The dealer is serving a 9-year sentence. Capilouto says it's not enough. He proposed a law in her name. If someone is convicted of supplying hard drugs like fentanyl or cocaine, they could receive a warning saying
that if they don't stop, and if someone dies as a result of their continued action, they can be charged with murder.
Alexandra's law failed several times to pass through committee at the state legislature. So Capilouto is trying to get it on the ballot to let voters decide. This version also includes a mandatory minimum 10 to 12-year sentence for anyone who provides drugs that result in someone's death.
And I would rather fill our jails than our morgues.
District attorneys can already prosecute these deaths as homicides, but this would make it easier. Capilouto says it mirrors a similar warning given for driving while intoxicated. Jeanette Zenapatin, a lawyer and director of California's Drug Policy Alliance, says the two can't be compared.
We're setting ourselves, with a slippery slope.
She says the proposal doesn't meet the legal standard for homicide of intent. Suppliers and users often don't know exactly what's in their drugs.
The best way to actually have knowledge and understand what is in the dose is to allow for more drug checking.
On a late November day in El Cajon, Jess Cochran helps load San Diego's harm reduction RV with portable testing strips.
As somebody with a pretty extensive lived history with substance use, I got really tired of watching my friends die from lack of resources.
She's from Indiana, where supplying drugs that result in death is punishable with up to 40 years in prison. She says when neighborhood drug dealers are incarcerated, overdoses increase. It doesn't reduce the supply, but it does make it more dangerous. People aren't familiar with the new dealers or what they're selling. Cochran says harsher penalties also make users less likely to call for help when someone they're with overdoses.
We're seeing even minors being charged, right? And these are kids that got a Xanax bar and they gave it to a friend and they didn't know that it had fentanyl in it. And how are they supposed to, right? They're not superheroes. They can't look at something and tell you what the molecular structure of it is.
The RV pulls up behind a breakfast diner where more than a dozen people gather around tents and cars.
What's your name?
Led by Tara Stamos Bisig, the team hands out kits with everything from hand sanitizer and beanies to Narcan and pipes. Some used right in front of the RV, slumping to the ground. The team isn't fazed. They're focused not on ending drug use, but on making it safer.
Straight pipes. She probably needs wound care, hygiene, all of it.
The clean needles and fentanyl test strips they hand out save lives for pennies each. Team member Jordan Parness operates a drug testing machine in the back of the RV. He's put about 600 samples through it since September. He says if opioids are not from a pharmacy, they almost certainly contain fentanyl. I asked him to estimate how much it costs to run the harm reduction street outreach.
More than incarcerating one person for a year and less than incarcerating two people for a year.
Under about $200,000. Though white and black people use and supply drugs at similar rates, black people are far more likely to be incarcerated for it. Under the decades-long war on drugs, overdose deaths have continued to climb. Stamos Bisig points to the 111,000 deaths each year.
We are having the equivalent of a 747 crashing every day in the United States of people overdosing.
She says she and initiative proponent Matthew Capilouto have the same goal: She just doesn't think his approach will work.
People aren't getting a solution in prison. They're not getting treated in prison. They're not, that's not balancing any scale. This takes away from the number of deaths.
Californians may see Capilouto's initiative on clipboards for their signatures. Capilouto says Congressman Darrell Issa plans to announce a federal version of the legislation on Friday. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.